What can we learn from our poop?
You know, people look at all these different scales and this and that, and really what
And is there anything that differs between the gut health or like the colon health of men versus women? So if you have dry ones, you need more water. If you have
more
salt
fiber.
and more fiber. And then if you have watery ones.
Yeah, so water is a little bit more difficult. So when you're kind of
My name is Sarah King. I'm a 46-year-old mother and morning show radio host from North Carolina. I started this podcast to address the questions that have come up for me over the years. I don't know about you, but almost every single time I leave the doctor's office, I realize that I didn't get all my questions answered. And in doing interviews with doctors for the radio, I have been startled, straight up shocked about how much information we have no clue about. We can't even ask questions about these things because we don't know they exist. That is why I started this podcast, so I can get my questions answered. I've also had a lot of time to think about which topic I wanted to start this podcast off with. Heart disease, birth control, mental health. Honestly, there are thousands of topics I could have chosen, but in the end, I decided to go in a different direction. A direction that all humans can relate to. Friends, today, we are starting this podcast by having all my questions answered about poop. With me now is Brenna Houlihan. She's an MD, a colorectal surgeon, and she's with WigMed. So I'm just going to come out the gate. We're talking about poop today.
Okay.
Why does it seem when it comes to problems with your digestive system, it's all like a mystery?
It's because we really don't know a lot, and we're learning more and more as the days go on. You know, the gut. People always say, why do you do this? Like, why is this your life? But it's so interesting. And I think, there is such a connection between the mind and the gut and, how you're feeling really affects your digestion.
Yes.
But also so many things can go wrong with it. So many things can go right with it too, and it just needs a lot of TLC. But there's so much coming out that, especially the bacteria that we have within our colon, we know so little about. And that, I think, is going to unlock a lot of these answers.
Well, that leads me to a few questions. First of all, so the colon is your real focus of your practice?
Colon, rectum, and anus.
Okay.
The whole shebang.
I have IBS, and
I think most people do. I always say, really, essentially, the criteria is so low for it.
Right.
We really all do, or at least go through periods of time of having it.
Right, like
Some
bouts.
people have it very extreme.
Yeah.
But I think we all have it a little here and there at the minimum.
Well, I brought that up because I've seen some gastroenterologists, and everyone who deals with this part of the body has the best sense of humor.
I mean, you have to.
Yeah, that's what they all
if
say.
If you can't laugh about it, what are you doing?
Well, let's talk about what the name of this episode is, and that's just straight up poop. So, what can we learn from our poop?
People look at all these different scales and this and that, and really what it comes to at the end of the day, what's normal for you might not be what's normal for everyone.
So is there a normal?
No, I mean, there are things that are definitely abnormal. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
But you have to be this time every day. No, everyone's different.
Sure.
I think of it more, and what I kind of tell my patients is the goal is to have soft, easy bowel movements. It should be something that you need to go. You feel the urge. You sit down. You go. You're on the toilet for just 2 minutes.
Okay. So
clean
all
and you
those
get up.
dads that are in the bathroom
Don't
for
even get me
45
started.
minutes. I know. So that means either they're very sick or they're lying to your face.
Well, or they just have bad bowel habits. And
Yeah.
sitting on the toilet for long periods of time, it's not good for your anal health.
Why not?
So when you're sitting on the toilet and your anus is below the level of your legs, so if you think about it, like right now when you're sitting, you're like, fine. When you think about when you're sitting on the toilet, you're like, oh yeah, I do feel more pressure down there.
Yeah.
And that pressure for some people can lead to having issues with hemorrhoids or it can lead to other problems down the road. So, yeah, it's really good to not sit on the toilet for long periods of time.
Is it wrong for me to say you deserve that if you're hiding from your children for 45 minutes on the toilet?
I mean, that's a fair assessment.
So I actually read something. You wouldn't believe where I read this. I read this in a Costco magazine.
Okay.
And it
Love Costco.
I know, right? Who doesn't? I mean, their lunch deals are epic. Something called Crocs. Are you familiar with the
sandals?
Yeah, those sandals as well. The acronym Crocs. This is what Costco told me.
Okay.
Costco said it stood for consistency, regularity, odor, color, and shape.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and really for me, I think some of that matters more than others, and you really it should be soft, it should be easy, you shouldn't have to be pushing, you want it to be kind of bulked together too. If you're having just like little balls, you're probably not emptying very well. Obviously, you want to make sure you don't see blood in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so I'm going to go through each one of these. The consistency, what can the consistency tell you?
So, obviously if it's hard, you know that you're probably dehydrated, constipated, you need to be doing more, which
Okay.
we'll get on. My big thing is Metamucil, that everyone in the world should be on it, which is just a fabulous fiber supplement
Okay.
to kind of, take a little pressure off of the fiber in the diet, because it's impossible to eat as much fiber as we're supposed to every day.
Well, how much are we supposed to?
Women are supposed to be about 25 grams and men are supposed to be about 30.
And what do we normally-ish get? Like, what's the average that we are actually eating?
Probably way below that.
Oh, yeah.
People are probably getting to
Metamucil.
like 10. Yeah, so, it takes the pressure off the diet a bit, keeps things bulked together too, because that's part of it, is you want everything that when it comes down to your rectal vault, when you go, it completely passes. You feel like you're emptied. You're not sort of full of it, so to say.
So if you have dry ones, you need more water. If you
And
have
more
salt
fiber.
and more fiber, and then if you have watery ones,
Yeah, so watery is a little bit more difficult. So when you're kind of dealing with looser, the answer is never to dehydrate.
Yes.
Don't ever do that. Diarrhea can be a little bit more complicated, but fiber can actually really help with that as well.
I would imagine, because I don't. I have IBS. I'm familiar with this problem. I'm just going to leave it there. But I do know that salad is like my enemy. So when you say fiber, I don't need to go out and eat a salad.
Yeah, fiber is different for everybody, and how people's
Okay.
bodies deal with it. It can be a little bit different. So
Sure.
for some people, the really, the hard fiber, like if you're just going to eat a bag of kale,
Ugh.
you're going to have
Yeah.
some issues. A lot of times people still do okay with the fiber supplements. Sometimes you have to play around with different ones or different amounts, or sort of build up to it.
Okay.
Is the other thing.
Interesting.
Kind of starting small. So starting with like a lot of cooked vegetables and then kind of increasing sort of to the raw.
Yeah.
Sometimes allows your body to tolerate it a little bit better.
I see. Okay. Okay. So the next one in our CROC acronym is regularity.
So, how many times you should, because for some people, normal is a couple times a day. Abnormal, you really don't want to be going days without having a bowel movement. You know?
I have a friend of mine who one time went a week.
Some people go a month. That's bad. That's
A
not
month?
good. Yeah.
Those people are probably also angry.
Yes. Once you're really missing, if you're every once in a while, some people, they're fine and they're missing a day here or there, or, and that's okay. As long as when you are going, it's soft, you feel like you're emptying, it's not a struggle. If you're consistently missing lots of days, you really want to be kind of saying, what can I be doing to sort of improve that? And that's really where the fiber supplements help. For people that have a lot of constipation, the other thing that really helps is Miralax, which is a laxative, but it's safe to take every day.
Okay.
So that's usually when people come in and they're saying, I'm going once a week and it's hard. Those are the two things I usually start with.
And
There's a lot of other things you can go up to.
Yeah. So what in the gut makes them that way?
It's different reasons for different people.
Okay.
For a lot of people, it can be just that their colon has slow transit. Things,
Okay.
kind of are slow to move through, and the longer it's in there,
The drier
more
it
the
gets.
water. Exactly.
Yeah.
For some people, it can be pelvic floor issues, so it's hard for them to actually evacuate. Sometimes it's kind of a mix of both.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
This one's going to be a fun one. Odor.
The odor to it, and a lot of times people will comment, oh, well, it smells, worse this time or that. And sometimes odor can mean something more than other times. Most of the time, it just will kind of change depending on
What you've eaten.
Yeah.
So it's really not that big of an indicator.
I don't put too much stock in it. Obviously, something really shifting in your bowel habits, worthwhile to kind of get checked out.
Yeah.
And that could include odor, but for the most part, I don't take too much stock in it.
Okay. Let's just move right on then. This one I've read up just in my past, and I know that there's a lot of things you can learn from the color of your bowel movements.
Yeah, so color, again, can be very variable. Some people will see different things that are going on in the body. Sometimes they'll change the color. So if you're having issues sometimes with your liver or with your gallbladder, sometimes that can change the color of your stool. So it really can give you hints about other stuff going on elsewhere.
Okay.
In general, within your own, as long as things are going kind of easy, there's going to be some variation. Again, obviously you want to make sure you're not seeing blood.
Right.
Blood can look black.
That's my
when
next
it's in the
question.
stool.
Yeah.
Pepto-Bismol can also look black. Fun fact.
Oh, goes in pink, comes out black.
Exactly. Exactly. So there are other things that can do that too. But obviously, if you're seeing red or black, definitely things you need to see a physician about and probably get a colonoscopy to check out.
I've had a few of those. They're real fun.
Yeah.
I've also heard that you can have white poop sometimes.
You can, and a lot of times, different medical things will kind of do is it sort of will take away the color of it sometimes. So a lot of times it can it can give good tips about something else that's going on.
I see. Okay, cool. And then last is shape.
So shape, they always go through the picture, which number are you? I think of it more as you just want it to be bulked and complete.
Okay.
The shape might kind of change. You don't want super skinny. You don't want little pieces.
What if it is super skinny? What could that mean?
Well, I think especially if things have changed, then you definitely want to get a colonoscopy and make sure there's not something that's sort of narrowing your colon.
Like a tumor or something?
Yeah. Or even like benign things can do it too, like a stricture.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, and is there anything that differs between the gut health or like the colon health of men versus women?
Yes. To what degree the difference is hard to say.
Yeah.
I will tell you, like anecdotally, women tend to have different bowel experiences after surgery than men do, and vice versa.
Interesting.
Sometimes I used to kind of say that men seem to have sort of a heartier GI tract, but I actually don't think that's true. I think sometimes they just don't tell us.
Yeah, that's probably true. Lack of information.
I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah, the data's incomplete.
Yeah, everyone's body in general is just different. And I think, too, how people deal with stress and, again, that mind-gut connection is very strong. As you know, when you're stressed,
it's the worst.
Things go different down there. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes it manifests maybe a little bit more strongly in certain sexes.
Yeah.
Maybe more with women, but I think it does the same thing in men too. It's all kind of how you deal with your stress.
Okay, so talk about that the gut brain is what I've heard it referred to.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you know about that.
For everybody, it's different, but I mean, how you're feeling and how your day's going and how you're dealing with your stress and anxieties, as we all do. A lot of times the gut will
tell you first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've seen it in myself. I'm sure you've seen it in
I
yourself.
definitely seen it.
And
do you find that like antidepressants and anxieties help if you have like a stressed out or an anxious gut?
it certainly can. Anything, or finding just different ways to sort of manage and mitigate stress.
Okay.
I think people have a lot of help. But the gut then stresses people out, so it can be sort of a vicious cycle.
Oh, it can most certainly be a vicious cycle. Yeah.
So a lot of what I do with people kind of, first and foremost, people are coming in to see a surgeon and they're like, oh, I think I have hemorrhoids or this. And it's like, well, the first thing we do is we fix how you poop.
Yeah.
We fix how you poop and we see if you still have issues.
Yeah.
And, fixing that sometimes it's me telling people they need to do yoga and meditate.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's me telling them they need to do Metamucil, Miralax, or,
Yeah, so everybody's different.
Everyone's different. And so listening to and seeing what your triggers are can really help you have better success moving forward.
Yeah. My last question is going back to women.
Mm-hmm.
I find that when the cycle is about to start, my regularity changes big time.
Yeah.
So what's going on with that? Is it getting rid of hormones? That's what I always in my brain. I was like, it's my body shedding the hormones.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So blood in your GI tract will make you go a lot. But same thing happens with menstruation. People tend to have easier time going.
Yeah.
Around the same time, just because of everything that's going on with the hormones and all of that. And it's interesting though, because I'll see women have issues because they'll be good for like a week, and then the next 3 weeks are terrible. So sometimes I say, okay, well, in those 3 weeks you need to be doing X, Y, and Z, and maybe you don't have to do it while you're menstruating.
It's so frustrating because you have to be so nimble in the response to it.
And most people, and I tell them, your day to day is going to shift. Like what you take each day might need to change. You kind of have to see what.
Yeah, but that's hard.
It's tough. It's tough. And it does tend to be a bit of a lifelong problem,
Yeah. So do you think that eventually we're going to have like individualized care plans for our digestive system? Do you think
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, but that's nowhere near in the future. Like in the near future, I should say.
I mean, we still are doing it kind of now. Like saying, okay, maybe, on days you're doing this, try taking this Metamucil in this form or things like that.
What about Imodium?
Imodium, we do use sometimes. I have... that's kind of, you have to get to that point because Imodium can really stop some people up. So I always hesitate. Some people need it and some people are on it every day, and that's fine. But I think if you're kind of casually have maybe like one loose stool and you take it, you might be bound up for a week.
Okay.
Which will kind of
it makes a whole different problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Imodium I do use with people, but I sort of
Pretty strong.
I less generically recommend it. We'll put
but
it that way.
Metamucil is safe for everybody.
For everybody.
Okay, you need to buy some stock, girl.
I know. Trust me. I really should.
Yeah, call your broker. Well, thank you so much for coming in today. This has been a really enlightening conversation. I still can't believe I started this podcast off talking about poop, but I had questions and now I have answers. Metamucil, who knew? Sarah Has Questions is a production of Capital Broadcasting Company. My guest today was Brenna Houlihan with WakeMed Colorectal Surgery. To find out more about her or any of the other WakeMed providers from the WakeMed team, go to wakemed.org. If you have thoughts about any episode or questions you want me to ask in a future episode or ideas for an episode at all, send me a message in the link. You'll find it in the show notes. Thanks for listening.